When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Premier League Cricket Show with me, Ian Livo, and again with me as always, week in, week out, will be Hugh Newsome. How are we doing, Hugh?
How we doing? You all right?
Yeah, good mate. How's things this winter going for you so far?
We're dodging snow and cancelling sporting fixtures left, right and centre, but no, we're okay. We're looking forward to a bit of indoor cricket at Birmingham next week, which will be nice and warm. It's the warmest indoor cricket centre in Britain. So if you're struggling with the heating bills, get there. It was roasting last week, or the other week, so yeah, worth it.
Get down to action cricket in Birmingham, watch some indoor cricket and keep warm.
That's it.
That sounds like our first bit of advice for anyone in the Midlands.
That's it, yeah. Save on your heating, play indoor cricket. I think that's it. I mean, whether there's an excuse to play more cricket, then saying warm is one of them.
Hey, listen, we're starting this new show now, and this is our first episode, and we've got a great guest. We've got Tom Evans coming up from the Liverpool Echo and Daily Mirror, who's going to talk about the Liverpool District Competition Premier League. Great chat we had with Tom, wasn't it?
He's just the doyen of the Liverpool District Comp. He knows everything there is to know about it. He's followed it for years and years and years, and it's just, an in-depth correspondent up there, and something that is incredibly valuable to Northwest cricket.
Absolutely, and I think for anyone who's listening to the first episode, what you're going to hear from Tom is exactly what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. Clearly, there's not a lot of club cricket going on at the moment, but we're going to be reviewing some of the leagues from around the country for 2023. We've got some great guests on. We've got Andy Rishton from Wokingham coming on. We've got Brad Wadland from Swansea Cricket Club, Tom Brett from Findon Dolben. We've got a bit of an NCCA theme going on, and you'll find out why in a couple of episodes' time. What are you looking forward to in these conversations that we've had, Hugh?
Well, I think it's listening to these guys. They're the people that have played in these leagues, coach these leagues, watch these leagues in depth. We can just sit back and sort of guide the conversation a little bit, but really it's their knowledge we want to get across. We can chip in with a bit of stats and some depth stuff and things like that, but it's having a bit of fun with these guys and listening to their experience.
I think one of the keys for us and one of the reasons we're doing this show is just to give that publicity and that voice to that top echelons of recreational cricket, isn't it?
Yeah, and the standard is so high. I'm a player from the lower down the leagues, and I'm in awe of this level. And there's I think we looked at something 4,000 or 5,000 people playing Premier League cricket every week across the country. That's 4,000 or 5,000 really top cricketers that don't get the recognition they deserve. And there's, we've got wonderful overseas players coming in, wonderful local players, pro players dropping down from county if they're not getting a game from county. And there isn't the light on it that there should be, and hopefully we can shine that light.
And that's what we're here for. The Premier League Cricket Show is going to be all about shining that light on all that top echelons of recreational cricket from right around the country. There's 32 Premier Leagues up and down the country, from the northeast all the way down to Dorset, Sussex. And we're going to have guests on week in, week out to talk about these things. As you say, Hugh, these are the people who are in it on a week-to-week basis. We will get to watch a lot and see a lot and look at the stats, but actually they're the ones facing the balls or actually bowling the balls, aren't they?
That's it. We could see snippets of stories emerging from game results and partnerships and bowling performances and things like that. But the real stories come from the people out in the field and the occasional bits of argy-bargy or people cleaning up 9 wickets for 8 runs or whatever it was last year. Those are the real things we want to hear about. And we want to hear about it from people who are involved on the day, or someone like Tom who's watched pretty much every single game of cricket there is to watch over the last 15, 20 years.
Definitely. And I think one of the things that you'll bring to the party more than me by a long way is we can look at these stats in a depth level that, let's be frank, play cricket can't. Some of the stats in terms of strike rate and who's batting well against who, etc. You're far better at telling that than me.
Yeah, I've developed a few tools that can bring that out. We've got analysis, bowlers versus batters, which batters prefer different types of bowling, ground statistics, all sorts of things that isn't available on Play Cricket. But so I think I'm looking to bring that level of detail, and looking at what it takes to win a Premier League, or lose. What are the key factors that teams need to take into account on a week-to-week basis? And the players and the captains, they will know these things, but it's nice to see it in data form, so I can hopefully bring that and add some value.
Definitely. So we're going to get stuck into Tom Evans's episode right now, but if you're listening to us now, and hopefully you're going to be following us on our socials, which are TPL Cricket Show on both Insta and X, formerly known as Twitter. But you can follow us on all of those socials. And obviously, you can follow Hugh on
Prem Cricket Stat on Twitter, which I am thinking about Instagram, especially as Elon Musk is doing his best to completely destroy Twitter, scaring everybody away. So I think we all might be disappearing off onto another platform at some point. But for the time being, on Prem Cricket Stat on Twitter or X.
And obviously, the most important thing is when you're following us on Twitter, whether you're following us on X, Insta, or wherever else, make sure you subscribe to the pod as well. Then you'll get the episode straight to your podcast player on your iPhone, on your Android phone, on your laptop, wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll get them come straight through. So I think it's time we hand over now to our guest, Tom Evans, and chat we had with him a couple of weeks ago. Enjoy. Right, so welcome everyone to Premier League Cricket Show again. And what we wanted is talk about the Liverpool District Competition. It was another great season up in the Liverpool District area. Top three was Ormskirk. They ran away with it in the end, beaten Northern, who you could argue potentially had their sights elsewhere in the T20 competition nationally as well. And Lee came third in the league. Unfortunately, down the bottom of the league, there was Colwyn Bay and Orrell Red Triangle. But to talk about the Liverpool competition today, we've got what I'd describe as a cricketing journalistic aficionado when it comes to the Premier League cricket. I'm being really nice to him. He is jet lagged today, so I'm going to be extra nice to him anyway. Welcome to the show, Tom Evans. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you very much for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. And joining us once again, as always, is our statistician and chief statistician for every Premier League around the country, Mr. Hugh Newsom. How are we doing, Hugh?
I'm not sure those are the right things to describe it, but it's better than most.
I know, keep building you up all the time, mate, don't we?
That's it. I'll knock myself down.
Hey, listen, it was a good season in the comp again. Tom, what stood out for you during the season in particular?
I think if you look at the weather, it was very much a regression towards the mean from last season.
Yeah, last
season the entire three first 11 divisions of the comp had 2 games rained off.
Wow,
all season. This season, I know statistically it's been the hottest summer on record in Europe and around the world, but climate change takes Saturdays off as well. It seems it's been quite wet, to be honest, and I think that's shown in the way that batters haven't been able to dominate quite as much. The team that won the comp, Ormskirk, did so by having a good variety of seam bowlers to select from. Yeah. They didn't just have one standout seamer and one standout spinner. They had Captain Gary Knight had somebody he could call on in any situation. He had a number of match winners there.
Yeah,
I think that showed in the way the league played out overall.
Just on that, then, I mean, the first bowler in the top bowling rankings for the league, Scott Lees at Ormskirk, 39 wickets at 12. So there's quite a lot of bowlers taking quite a lot of wickets ahead of anyone from Ormskirk.
Yeah. Another thing that last season was, perhaps because it was such a good year for batters, was particularly dominated by Wallasey's Indian left arm spinner Sumit Viveka, who's had a fantastic few seasons at the club, but he's been very affected by injury this year and hasn't been able to put it consistently. Okay. He got 95 wickets in the Prem last year. He got, I think, 80 odd the year before. This year it's been, I think, the joint top wicket takers got 50 each, both overseas left armers. And I think, what I was saying about Ormskirk having more than one bowler they could call upon, because there wasn't anybody at any club who was consistently bowling sides out by themselves.
Definitely. But let's get on to the batters, though, to start with, because we're going to come on to the bowlers in a second, but there's one standout in the batters at the top there, Hugh, isn't there?
Tyler McGladdery, again, top of the nation in Premier League runs
scored. Top of the
nation,
that's a good thing to say.
1,154 runs at 72 in a swamp of a season. That's terrific performance. And he's 300 runs clear of second. Ollie Sutton form being second place in Cobain, third and 870 runs. And the one that jumped out early doors in the season, Iron Juyal, I'm going to pronounce that wrong, only played 10 games in the end for Southport and Birkdale, 737 runs at 122.
Wow.
So, he obviously, his, I assume, departure for greater things, I suppose. I don't. You'll have to let us know, Tom. But that was a big loss for them mid-season.
He picked up an injury. He got an elbow or shoulder injury. Yeah, he had to return to India for treatment on that, and they missed him for the second half of the season. Basically, it's interesting. I say they missed him. They had a decent season. Did S&B. I mean, a lot of that, I spoke to their captain Chris Cunningham a few times. He said AJ had a great influence off the field as well.
Yeah. Fantastic. Did it? Yeah, so he was able to. He wasn't just putting up the runs. He was sticking around and helping out, and being a top pro across the board.
He was, yeah. A couple of places above him in the run charts was JJ Fielding, young left-handed opener. He's actually leaving. He's actually going back to Ramsbottom.
Okay.
After a successful few years at S&B. But GL in the middle of the season, I think there was a period between sort of May and June when he was really hitting his straps. Before he picked up the knock, where he was just unstoppable. He was, left arm spinners are still kryptonite in the comp. They're the one bowler that everyone has to build their attack around. And he, as a right-hander, was playing them better than anyone I've seen. He was stepping out to them. He was hitting them inside out over the offside. He was different class for a while. He hit 3 consecutive centuries, which I think I got you to look up the stats on that mid-season, Hugh, which hasn't been done for a very long time.
I think 2007 was the last time.
Yeah. S&B lost all 3 games, which is almost an aside.
Yeah. I mean, that makes it even better, doesn't it? If they've lost all 3 games. Yeah.
It's interesting though, Tom, that we've recorded with Cheshire as well, and these left arm spinners, we talk about it at test level, and we've talked about it in England from test level for many years, struggling against left arm spin. It's still happening down at club cricket level as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why it is. I don't know. But you don't really see many at the very, very top level. You don't see many. Who are the best left arm spinners in world cricket at the moment over the last 5 or 10 years? You think Jadeja? Yeah. Jack Leach has done a very good job for England.
Yeah.
But he's not been skittling sides, and I don't know if that's part of the if that is part of the gap between the top club level and higher up in the professional game.
You just don't come across them really, do you? They're a real rarity, particularly in youth cricket. I'm more focused at youth cricket, and they're just not there. They're not there yet. I mean, obviously they come later on, and there's not many left-handers anyway, left-arm bowlers anyway. So it's, and then I suppose at professional level, every club's got one, so therefore they practice against them. I think it's that. But in terms of nationally in the Premier League, I think we looked at its top 5. There's 5 of the top 10 bowlers in the nation. We're all left arm spin, 2 right arm spin, 3 seamers. There might have been 2 left arm, and there might have been a leggy in there actually. So it was 7 or 8 spinners, and 5 of those were left arm.
I'm just looking now at the Premier Division and the comp's top 10. We've got the top 2 both overseas pro left arm spinners, and number 4 as well. The third is Tom Sefton, who's been doing it for years at Northern, twirling away as good as ever, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a right arm offie at 5. Then it's 1 seamer, and the rest are left arm spinners making up the top 10.
It's incredible, isn't it? If you get one of them in your team, it just makes all the difference.
Well, I think it's sort of, there's a bit of a circular logic to it, because teams who are looking for an overseas pro, they don't, GL this year for Southport was a bit of an exception because he was a top class batter. Yeah. Okay. They've got a lot of homegrown, a lot of spinners at the club already, so they went for a batter.
Mm-hmm.
You'd normally want somebody who can win you games when you're paying for them, and somebody who can guarantee you 20 overs if you're paying for them. So you go for a spinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't go for a batter who could get a beauty or a grubber first ball.
Yeah.
And you don't go for a seam bowler who is going to be coming to you after 7 overs and saying, you know what, I need a spell. I need to go down and find leg for a while.
Yeah, the chairmen still want to get their money's worth at the end of the day.
They want to get their money's worth, and going for spinners, and in a league where most batters are right-handers, going for someone who can turn the ball away.
Definitely. Tell us about. There's plenty of overseas players in the Liverpool District Comp. Who've been the standouts there that you obviously there's the McGladrys of this world and the Jahals. Is there anyone else that stood out for you as different this year?
In particular, this year, like I say, it's been a bit sort of back towards that regression towards the mean again overall. Khalid Usman, the overseas pro Rain Hill has had a very good side. As a side, they've struggled at times this season, but ended up with a decent league position. I think he's been a big part of the reason for that. He's done a lot of the work. You know, I went to see them. They were playing against Lee, who'd had a flying start to the season, and he bowled. It was one of the hottest days of this summer. It was ridiculously hot, sort of
25 degrees.
Yeah, something like that. And he bowled 27 overs in one spell.
Wow!
And then came into bat at number 5 after they lost 3 fairly quick wickets. So he put his feet up for half an hour, basically, while the top 3 lost their wickets. And then he came out and scored 95 not out as they went on and won the game. And that, you know, we talk about all-rounders, that has to be, you know, in terms of the games I've seen, which is at most one a week, obviously, that's by far the best all-round performance I've seen this year.
Let's go into those bowlers then and look at those top stats. Khalid's right up there, isn't he, Hugh?
Khalid's been 50. Yeah, 50 at 16. Vinay Chowdhury, 50 at 16 as well. For Wigan, Thomas Sefton at Northern, 49 at 16 as well. 16 is popular. Chris Firth at 45 at 22, and Sumit Ruakar, is that pronounced correctly, at Wallasey, 42 at 17 in a curtailed season. You know, so those are the top 5 there. Sukit Singh, it's 42 wickets at 19 as well. So yeah, also on 42 wickets. So those guys. Sumit Ruakar is just re-signed, I believe. I saw that on Twitter yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. So he's coming back again next season.
Clearly backing him to, you know, be back to something like his old. You know, he's obviously still been very good this year, both with bat and ball. But he was a huge reason why Wallasey won the title last year, and I think his drop off. They've got a lot of very good players. They've got a very good local core in that team. I think the fact that Vivica's been struggling with injury and a couple of others at the top of the order have struggled to find consistent form and the reason why they've had a very mixed season in the league, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. For followers of the competition, to see someone like Thomas Sefton continue to do what he's doing, it seems endless, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose his captain James Cole quite a few times. I think he's sick of me asking about him, so I don't do it anymore because, you know, he's relentlessly churning out, you know, 3, 4, 5 wickets every week, and he's always injured as was. You can see him, he's always limping. He's constantly complaining about some knock or whether according to his captain. It's not my words.
Well, I was going to say, is he actually injured or just moaning? It's one or the other.
Well, you'd have to ask his captain. he always gives him, you know, 20 overs from one end. So.
In my stats, Thomas Sefton, in all my stats, 792 wickets at 14 in 260 matches. So I don't know if there's, I might not have the full set there and play cricket messes about, but yeah, that's a lot of wickets.
He's 1,200 plus wickets on play cricket, and there aren't many that go over 1,000.
No.
So we know the numbers are huge, and this is proper play cricket, whereas, you know, we have this conversation on the pod regularly, whereas the before play cricket, a bit like the old Premier League in football, nothing ever happened before play cricket, clearly. But, you know, we've got all kinds of people with all kinds of runs and wickets missing, but I think Thomas's, they're all on there, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he's very much a player of the play cricket era. Like he's been around for a long time. If we sort of look at mid 2000s, sort of 2007, 2006, is where it starts to get unreliable in my.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
I started using the phrase since records began, or where records are available.
Yeah, we use BPC, before play cricket. And there are some clubs, and we've got a club down in Surrey called Stoke Darbonin, who've got scorebooks going on back to the 70s. And the stats then are just phenomenal when you start to see everything. But hey, that's a little aside. What about the all-rounders in the league, Tom and Hugh? Who's been standout there? You're one of them, obviously.
Yeah, so Khalid 305 runs, 50 wickets. Manny McKernan, 743 runs, 26 wickets. Sumit Ruakar in his curtailed season, I think he maybe batted in 3 games that he didn't bowl in.
Yeah.
350 runs, 42 wickets. Ollie Sutton at Formby, 879 runs, 13 wickets. Sneaks in there on the all-rounders. I think I've got they have to hit so many wickets before they pop up there.
Yeah.
Vinay Chowdhury, in 118 runs, 50 wickets. And then, John Dotter's 307 runs, 40. Daniel Beaver at Wallasey again. That's 470 runs and 31 wickets. So it's it's those all-round contributions that are crucial to putting consistent form together across the league. Not just occasional flashes of brilliance. It's those consistent performances week in, week out, which is so important.
Yeah, for Sutton at Formby, it's been around. He's been putting in this kind of performance for a few years now, but this has been a real breakthrough year for him, I think, in terms of the numbers. Certainly, he bowls fairly rapid left arm seam as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think the other
13 wickets at 30. That's certainly good numbers.
Definitely. It's great from our perspective. I mean, we talk local every now and again. Matty McKinnon's had a great season up in the comp. One of our Derbyshire inverted commas exports. Him and Billy Godleman have both done pretty well this season. Billy probably would fancy a few more runs, I think, but Matty has bowled and batted well, hasn't he?
Very well, yeah. He was a big part of Lee. Lee, I thought, were really going to challenge for the title this year. They had an excellent start. On paper, I think they're definitely one of the strongest squads. It's the availability of McCain and the availability of Matty Hurst, who was broken into the Lancashire side this year after a few years at Lee, after joining from Newton Llewellows. I think obviously they've got a really experienced captain in Carl Brown, the former Lancashire player, and a good seam attack as well. I think they had they won their first 5 games, but then I think that they went on a bit of a dip. They've been a bit up and down. They didn't win any of the next 6 or 7, I think, which is sort of why their challenge kind of faltered. But yeah, McKinnon is always a big player. He's the first one who the opposition are always looking out for to see if he shows up.
Definitely. And I think Rainford were quite affected this year as well with abandoned games, weren't they? I mean, there were quite a few points behind getting into that top 2, but to have 3 games abandoned and 3 no decision games doesn't exactly help you, does it?
No, but this has been an absolutely outstanding season for Rainford. They've been, it almost plays down what they've achieved to call them the surprise package of the year, because to break into the top 4 of that division in their first season since promotion, and to top it all off, they won the Ray Digman Trophy as well, beating Northern in the final. And
fantastic.
Northern, as we've seen, are one of the best limited overs clubs, I think, in the country. I think. It's hard to argue that with the way they absolutely stormed the Lancashire Cup, the way they went deep in the National Cup competitions and the T20s as well. And I think, for Rainford to pull that off in the final against them, having just the previous day wrapped up 4th place, which is their captain, John Dotters, has done an outstanding job. I spoke to him last week, which feels like about 3 weeks ago because I've been away. He was saying, I could sit here and tell you that, this was all part of the plan, finishing 4th and winning a trophy, but it's this club's highest ever league position. It's the first time they've ever won the Ray Digman Trophy, so it's been an outstanding season for Rainford.
And if you look at what Northern did in those national trophies and the Lancashire Cup in particular, do you think that affected them in the league in the end in the comp?
I don't know. I think for a while, sort of the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season, when those cups are coming into the latter stages, I think Ormskirk were too far ahead of Northern. Northern only took 2nd place in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, they sort of took over Lee in 2nd place in the last couple of weeks. And I think they've possibly been a bit pragmatic about it and thought, well, we can push Ormskirk in the league, but at the end of the day, we can win trophies here. It's not a question of either or. Obviously, one's played on a Saturday, one's on a Sunday. They're in different formats of the game, so you don't have to sacrifice one. But I couldn't blame them if their focus had been more on the cup competitions, and winning that Lancashire Cup for the first time in 10 years. I know it was a huge moment for James Cole and the club.
Yeah, and they went deep because they went deep so in that competition and the national T20 as well. It does affect a little bit of availability, and it's asking a lot of the players because they didn't use a big squad at the end of the day, did they?
No, very similar sides for the league and league and cup competitions certainly, and a really good core of players who've been around for a long time. I think the addition of McGladdery at the top of the order, signing from Rainhill over the winter, that was a really big deal for them because. Last year we had 4 batters breaking 1,000 runs in the league. This year McGladdery's done it, but it meant that a couple of other players in the Northern top order have had sort of slightly more middling seasons. They've been affected a bit by injury and a slight loss of form, and McGladdery's runs have more than made up for that. It's just been in the league. It's just been a couple of times they've failed to take 10 wickets. They've left sides 9 down, which is I think one of the joys of the comp is the fact that you have to bowl sides out. You can't assume a win if you've scored too many runs for them. You still have to go out there and take 10 wickets because of the format.
I think that answers my favourite question there, doesn't it, Hugh?
Yes.
We like
win-loss versus
win-loss versus win-lose draw cricket. It's so different all over the bloody country, to be frank. You're a win-lose draw man by the sounds of things, Tom.
Very much so. I mean, the last day of the season, I was at All Red Triangle for sort of one prong of a relegation triangle. The other sides were New Brighton and Colwyn Bay, who were playing each other down the North Wales coast, which is, even by my standards, that would be a long way for me to go on a Saturday for fun. So I went to All Red Triangle where they were playing Southport and Birkdale, and the number of permutations and the amount of intrigue up to the final ball and all of that was because it could have been a draw, because a draw was possible. In the end, S&B did block out for the draw. After they'd lost a few early wickets and their middle order sort of collapsed a little bit, and it swung both ways so many times, because from the way it was at the start of the game, if all had earned a certain number of points, they were definitely safe, and the other two sides, it didn't matter what they did. And Colwyn Bay got off to a great start, and it looked like they were going to win. Orwell lost a few quick wickets early on. It looked like they were going to lose, so that would be Colwyn Bay that was safe.
Tell us about some of the young players in particular who've emerged during the season, Tom. There must have been someone who you've gone, hang on a minute.
I think that it's a great part of the job is watching somebody and thinking, what are they going to do in a few years' time? I've really enjoyed watching JJ Fielding at Southport over the last few years. He's clearly developed as a cricketer. When I've been watching him as a young left-handed opener, he's going back to the Lancashire League now. But he's going as a more developed player because of his time in the comp. That's what it's all about. And there's a few sort of young spinners, young bowlers coming through. I think there's clubs are sort of relying on them a little bit now, which is good to see. I think Lee have got some good young batters in their top order as well. Matty Hurst obviously is getting some recognition with Lancashire. It's great to see. And like I say, Formby have got a good young side as well. Very experienced top order, but the likes of Ollie Sutton, I think, is just into his 20s. He's had a great season, and it's fantastic to see players coming through.
Yeah, and I think the comp's going through a bit of a transition there at the moment, isn't it? You get these peaks and waves where the squads are not aging but get older, and then all of a sudden there's a big track of youth coming through at the moment. Yeah,
I think it can often cause issues for clubs when they have to sort of make that transition, when they have to sort of start. It's a key part of captaincy, I think, when they have to, knowing when to trust young players to step up. I know Northern particularly they will often give young players, like very young, 14, 15-year-olds, a game towards the end of the season. I know a lot of clubs do that too. Northern as an example there. But it's because you don't want to suddenly have a slew of retirements and suddenly have to trust all your youngsters at once with no one around to guide them.
Definitely. And that brings us round to sort of the perfect way to end most of these conversations we're going to have with people about, you get to the end of the season, the club's already looking at who's not going to be there next year. You've talked about a couple of the people who are moving on already. What can you see happening during the winter and into the spring? Is there going to be quite a lot of movement, do you think?
I would have thought so, yeah. I mean, the two teams that are promoted to the Premier Division are very strong already. Newton Willows and Birkenhead Park. On the field in 2022, they would have finished, I think, 5th and 7th in the Prem.
Okay.
They both had 80-point deductions for off-field matters.
Right.
Newton Willows fielded a player who was, choose my words very carefully here because it was a whole thing, believe me, who was incorrectly registered. He was on the wrong visa.
Okay.
Birkenhead Park selected for their first team a player who was registered as a second team player without getting prior permission from the league to do that. Both were given, they weren't given the maximum penalty because the league accepted that they were honest mistakes, but they were given enough of a penalty to drop them into the relegation zone. And they couldn't escape. So that was a bit of rancor was caused by that. And it's kind of fitting that, they made Division 1 very strong last year, because obviously they kept a lot of their players. Young Ben Walkden, for example, the opener at Newton Willows, he got about 900 runs in the Prem in 22, and has stayed with the club, and about 700-800 this year in Division 1 as well. So they're two already very strong squads coming up. So I think teams who are around the bottom, like New Brighton, just escaped relegation on the last day, and the likes of Rain Hill and possibly Wigan as well, will be looking over their shoulders and thinking, hang on, these two sides that are coming up, we can't assume that either of those are going to be anywhere near the bottom this year.
Not at all.
Strong squads, so they're going to need to strengthen. Wigan did well this year. They with the help of Vinay Chowdhury, the overseas pro. Also, someone else has had a good season in terms of young players. Actually, Adnan Mikel, who was featured on the Field of Dreams show. He's really had some breakthrough performances for Wigan this year. It's been great to see as an all rounder as well.
Most definitely, tremendous story, that one, isn't it?
Great, yeah, it's fantastic, and there's an untapped resource out there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's been great to talk in depth about the Liverpool comp with somebody who actually knows more about it than me and Hugh do. We did talk about it.
Give you that impression that I've done my job. So.
Yeah, well, we talked about it probably 6 to 7 weeks ago, and I think we can get by. I'm lucky that I know most of the clubs up that way anyway.
Blag it, I think is the word. I can blag it. Yeah.
No, I can get by. You blag it. There are some of the leagues that we've got. Absolutely, we need that guest big time, and they'll be coming up in the next few weeks. But keep in touch, Tom. Be great to keep an eye on what's happening next year. Be a good season next year. I'm pretty sure. Fingers crossed. We just don't have a July like we had this year. We get back to some normal weather, eh?
Yeah. So all coming in July like that sort of did really sort of split the season up and break it in two and stop a lot of momentum, I think, for a lot of sides. But like I say, this summer in terms of the number of games rained off was a lot more typical than last summer. So
exceptional.
And keep the coverage going. I mean, it's really, really appreciated. By myself and probably thousands of people. I think you probably don't realise quite how many people are paying attention to your constant stream of information and news and comment. It's really, really valuable for us all.
Well, thank you. That's good to hear. Appreciate you saying that. I do it for the love of it, and it's amazing to hear that people appreciate it and people enjoy it. That just
it's brilliant.
Yeah. It is.
I'm even interested about your trip to New York now, so that's
Cheers, Tom.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Premier League Cricket Show. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes and stay updated on all the latest news, views and discussions from around the cricket Premier Leagues. And be sure to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at TPL Cricket Show on both. Join the conversation, share your thoughts and connect with us and your fellow Premier League cricket fans. And hey, if you enjoyed the show, why not show us some love? Leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform, as it helps other potential listeners to find us when they're searching for cricketing podcasts. Thanks again for being part of the Premier League Cricket Show family, and until next time, have a good one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.